Working? Oh, it is working. 3, 2, 1. What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from here, the Spirit President, to you by NoelGameDay.com. We are here on the most magnificent Wednesday evening. It is officially game week, ladies and gentlemen, in Tallahassee. Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles will be taking the field in Doak Campbell Stadium on Saturday at 5 p.m. to kick off the 2022 season against Duquesne in week 0. We are here early in the year as Florida State starts a week before everybody else. We've already gone through a game week practice, at least available to the media. We will be talking about Tuesdays and Wednesdays practices and giving our thoughts on that, along with the depth chart. One player in the linebacker position will no longer be available throughout the whole 2022 season. One wide receiver also won't be available this upcoming Saturday. We've got the whole rundown on Duquesne, including some talk from a few of their players and coaches on this upcoming matchup on Saturday. So we've got everything in store. It feels good. It feels so good to be back, gentlemen. We're here to actually talk about a game and preview it. It's been, I believe, 272 days since we've been able to preview a game. Feels good. Up top with me is Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer, and down below, our editor-in-chief, D-Lou, Dustin. Gentlemen, we're here, baby. I feel good. My energy's back. I know Dustin's dealing with some sickness, but we're back. It feels so good to be going into Doak this upcoming Saturday to cover a game for you guys.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Logan, I think your mic isn't working, the one that you want. But it's crazy. It's finally game week. Like you said, we got through the last 2 open practices prior to the season opener earlier today, and just kind of crazy. It the last couple years for me, at least, it felt like the off season was a lot longer, and I don't know if I was just out there doing so much recruiting stuff this summer that it flew by. But it's crazy that football's already back, and just excited to see what this team can do on Saturday.
It's nice that we can finally just stop talking and start watching.
Definitely.
No more debating, no more hypotheticals. We're actually going to see something happen. And it took long enough, honestly.
It did take long enough, and thank you guys. We have learned over a couple of years now that when my mic is not working, we've now known to tell me, and now we got the grill mic on, and we're back in the good groove here. But yes, it does feel good to actually preview a game, even if it's Duquesne, yes, but to actually have some analysis and some predictions and some chatter from other opponents talking about Florida State, it just feels right. So I know Tallahassee's gearing up for a big weekend ahead. You got the block party on Friday night. You're just going back into the regular things here in Tallahassee. This is how it's supposed to be. This is the best part of time to be. And the 850 on Florida State is heading back into Doak Campbell Stadium on Saturday night. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing a lot of fans. We've been meeting a lot of you guys throughout the offseason, but expected to see a lot of you guys on Saturdays too. So safe travels, everyone. Let's get started with the evening, though. We've got quite a bit to talk about before we get started, though. Make sure, guys, if you're on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe. If you're on there right now, if you listen audio-wise, we're on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, everywhere on every platform practically. So make sure you guys go jump over there if you want to listen to the audio version. If not, we're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter Live right now on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. And that's how it's going to be for the rest of the year, too. So just if you guys want to know the schedule, we'll be live every Wednesday night at 8. It'll be strictly at that. And then for some games, there will be instant reaction. Some will not. I'm expecting not to have an instant reaction podcast after this game. It is Duquesne, but when we get over there, when all of us are in Baton Rouge, we're going to hopefully be able to do one over there. So it's just going to kind of be off and on with the instant reactions this upcoming season. Let's get started, gentlemen. We got the depth chart. Before that, though, let's jump into a player that Mike Norvell told us today that would not be available for the 2022 season because of injury. That is linebacker Steven Dix Jr., a guy that, has been in the rotation throughout the spring into fall camp. You lose body there, and it definitely hurts, at least in my opinion, for a guy that can rotate and come in and play in certain packages for FSU. Maybe not so much of a pivotal loss, but depth-wise, I think it stinks there for Florida State's defense and Randy Shannon, that linebacker room.
Yeah, first off, it really just sucks for Steven Dix because he's put in a lot of work this offseason, and his role kind of diminished a little bit in 2021. It seemed like maybe he was going to start to make a little bit of a resurgence this year, but now it's just you look at these other linebackers, Kalen DeLoach, DJ Lundy, Tatum Bethune, Amari Gaynor. It's now even more pivotable that those guys don't get banged up throughout the season. And behind Steven Diggs Jr. now, Brendan Gant and Omar Graham are going to be asked to do, I think, even more. So you're entering 2022 with only 6 scholarship linebackers. It's not a huge worry out of the gate just because you do play that 4-2-5 defense. So you're hoping not to have to rely on more than 2 linebackers on the field in the majority of situations. But it is a little bit concerning, and they need to stay healthy.
Yeah, it's already a small room. And now you have to rely on DJ Lundy a lot more because, guys are going to need a break here and there. And hopefully Amari Gaynor can finally be just a true linebacker instead of him trying to be some kind of hybrid role that they were trying to figure out for him last year. He's going to have to play some linebacker this year, and hopefully he can succeed when, Tatum Bethune and DeLoach need a break. Small room. It can't really afford many more injuries besides this.
Yeah, that loss definitely stinks. And like you said, he's been working really hard this offseason. Randy Shannon talked about it during the spring. This guy was trying to get on the field as much as possible. And now you look at who's going to come in and step up here. And D-Lou, we've been talking about him at practice quite a bit, and you love this guy. And I think there's definitely some positive signs that we've seen from practices, and that's Brendan Gant. He's not your regular size linebacker. And nowadays, there really aren't much in college football. Guys are being spread around everywhere, going east and west. But this is a guy that can go north and south really quickly, more north than anything, and coming down to play the run. He can be used in blitz packages. Brendan Gant, I think, is going to be someone that Florida State, Randy Shannon, and Adam Fuller are going to rely on this upcoming season. And these last couple weeks of practice, I got to say, he's been standing out to me.
Yeah, we saw whenever he was at defensive back, this is a guy that loves to come down the run game and lay the wood, a big hitter. So now you move him over to linebacker, and he's going to get to bring the best of those attributes when it comes to stopping the run, which we've seen in practice. He's a guy who seems to get up around the line of scrimmage, create tackles right there at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield. And then even today, like you said, he's a little bit smaller than maybe some of the other linebackers in the room, but he's not a tiny linebacker by any means. He can definitely fit in this modern style of where linebackers are at. So he's going to be, I would say, Florida State's best linebacker in coverage, and you'll probably see him used in a lot of different packages. But it felt like whenever Florida State was shifting Brendan Gant to linebacker earlier this spring, it was kind of a move to just kind of see, is he still going to be able to fit somewhere in this program? And he's taken that transition admirably, put in a lot of work, and excited to see where it goes this fall.
That linebacker room, I mean, if you look too, and I'm going to name him later on in the show when we look forward to seeing some freshmen this upcoming Saturday, I think Omar Graham Jr. is going to get a lot more PT more than maybe he was expected, or even the staff was this upcoming season, guys, because he looks the part, and he's one of the, I've been told, from a few people around the program, one of the smartest guys on the team. And so if he can get down that playbook, I think that's the biggest thing for him. He's already in really good shape. He's got the build as a linebacker, and he was really impressive. If you look back at his senior season in high school, man, if you watch his tape, that man can do a lot of things. But if he can be moved up and get into a depth role there, that would be really big for Florida State this upcoming season. So we'll talk about him, I'm sure, later on in the show when we talk about some freshmen that we'd like to see on Saturday. So definitely not a great loss there for Florida State, but luckily you've got a guy with Gant who's got experience, can come in and play. And that move has been for a while for Gant. So the staff at least has that guy already in that rotation. This is nothing new. This isn't a game week type thing where he's having to get down that position. He's been in that role for a while now. So that's at least a positive to take out of this. Go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, don't forget about DJ Lundy, because he is a little bit ahead of Steven Dix Jr. on the depth chart, but these guys came in the same recruiting class together. And DJ Lundy, man, he put in a ton of work this offseason, coming into camp, probably in the best shape of his college career to this point. And he was pretty darn good for Florida State last year. I think he's going to take it to another level alongside Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach and Amari Gaynor in the top of that linebacker rotation.
Another player that won't be available on Saturday, and we have not gotten a real timetable on how long this is going to last for him, but this is because of injury from one of the scrimmages. This is wide receiver Jakai Douglas, one of the most explosive players for Florida State's offense last year. He will not be on the field on Saturday. We talked with Coach Norvell today about this, said that this came from one of the physical scrimmages that Florida State went through. They had two during fall camp. One of those where Jakai Douglas left with an injury. We did not get any details regarding that injury, nor do we have a timeline of when maybe we'll see Douglas back at practice and available for the Florida State Seminoles, but you will not have him in week 0. You're hoping that this isn't a long-lasting injury because you certainly would like to have an explosive player that changes the game. We saw it last year, Miami, Notre Dame. This guy can fly down the field and make some big-time grabs for the Seminoles. You would like to have him for LSU. It's fine that you may not have him for Duquesne, but still something that might have fans a little worried going past this upcoming Saturday.
Yeah, it's a tough loss, but, I do think it's important to listen to what Norvell said. They expect him back very soon, so that is positive. Hopefully he only has to miss this game against Duquesne, because you think about Jakai, a Louisiana native, he's definitely chomping at the bit to get out there and go after LSU if he's healthy enough to do so. But, a guy right there at the top of that wide receiver rotation at the beginning of camp, spent some time at running back as well, and was someone that Florida State is going to use in multiple ways in that offense, out wide, out of the backfield. And like you said, an explosive playmaker, had that huge catch against Miami, scored the long touchdown against Notre Dame and the season opener. We've seen Jakai break the top off of defenses a couple times in his college career, and it felt like he was learning, kind of falling more into his role in this fall camp as far as making more than big plays. He was making catches short, over the middle, those intermediate plays, rather than just always having to hit the deep shot, which I thought was an impressive development in his game. So whenever he does get back, excited to see what he can bring in that wide receiver core.
Just going to have to be even more reliant on the new guys. We've talked about it a little bit over the last couple of weeks. There's a lot of new guys in this receiver rotation. Now you're going to have to break them in. They're going to have to get used to this offense pretty fast, get used to the route system pretty fast. Hopefully he's back soon, like Norvell is saying, and we'll see how they do this week without him.
We were heading to fall camp, and we kind of had some limited expectations for the availability of Winston Wright Jr., and you had to find someone in that wide receiver room to step up. You already knew what you kind of had in the veterans, but you're looking at some of these transfers to step up. And I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised, and we'll talk about it in the depth chart here, and I'll lead us into that. I'm a little surprised with how Duquesne has jumped up like this. And
I was going to say that. Yeah.
None of us on here at this time 4 months ago were saying, okay, Duquesne has the potential to be a starter on Saturday. That wasn't an expectation, nor was it going to be Johnny Wilson. Nobody was doing that. It was all Winston Wright Jr. It was going to be Micah Pittman. And those two were going to probably be the ones that were going to be thrown in that rotation. Yes, Micah Pittman will play a lot this upcoming season. He'll play a lot this Saturday, hopefully in the first half only. But no one was expecting those two guys to emerge. So at least from the positive outlook of this, if you have Jakai Douglas limited for whatever amount of time, hopefully, like you said, Dustin Norvell saying, in quote, really, really soon, at least you've got those two guys that have emerged with Deuce and Johnny Wilson. So we'll rotate that in and transition into that depth chart. What were y'all's first kind of thoughts out of this from seeing that on Monday afternoon, whenever that was released? First things that come out to mind to you guys.
Well, I was going to bring up Duquesne, but you kind of covered that one.
Mm-hmm.
I would say maybe a little bit of surprise that Trey Benson isn't a starter, considering the camp he had and how excellent he was in the spring. But it's not going to matter a whole ton at the end of the day, just because they're going to that rotation in the backfield is going to be split a ton. But I thought it was notable. You look over on the defensive side of the ball, and we've talked about the depth of that interior defensive line so many times over the offseason. And we've talked about Joshua Farmer's development and growth. Logan, you look at that depth chart, he's listed right there at nose tackle as an or with Malcolm Ray. So just really shows how the strides that he's made to make an appearance alongside those top 4 guys.
I wasn't that surprised with Trey Benson not being the starter. I just feel like with the way Treshaun Ward performed last season, he deserves to be a starter at least for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Benson's performing a few weeks in, then yeah, fine, make the change. But Ward was so good last season. Really, my first glance went to the offensive line. We haven't really talked about Maurice Smith yet, but it was interesting to see how that depth chart shakes out. They put Darris Washington at center, and then they have an Orr with Emmanuel and Turntine at right guard. It's going to be interesting to see who gets that start there and who eventually ends up being the starter when Smith comes back. That's where my first thoughts were, honestly. Besides Deuce Spann. I was really surprised to see him as an Orr.
I know that was definitely a shocker. And that's crazy. I wouldn't say like full 180, but it was close to that from what we saw in the spring. He was such a project player. And I think that's kind of on the boundaries of what the coaches were saying. There's still a lot of work to be done there. And then that switch happens when fall camp starts. About 3 days in, you're like, okay, well, what's going on here? And the thing was, he started understanding the playbook, man. He got the playbook down. The routes were so much better and crisp and sharper. And I think he's got the quarterback mindset. So I don't think it's too hard for him to understand the playbook on his side of things, but he got that whole dimension down. And then you add in how lethal he can be with his body type that he has and the speed, his length. That's where it's kind of hard to keep him off the field, both not on offense, but you look at special teams. He's going to be a pivotal factor there in the return game for Florida State. That's such a nice thing. At least, you don't have Winston Wright Jr. to start off the season, but you got a guy that emerged and broke out in fall camp, and that was Deuce Spann. So I will say he's definitely fun to watch in practice.
And another thing about Spann's size, there's only one receiver below 6 foot in his first 6 receivers, and 4 of them are 6'3" or taller. It's a huge receiver group without Winston Wright and Jakai Douglas there. Huge receiver group.
Really do feel like the sky is the limit for Deuce Spann, just with the trajectory that he's been on with his development ever since he got to Florida State. As you mentioned earlier, Logan, a guy, whenever he did transfer into Florida State, we're like, all right, he's a year, maybe 2 years away from contributing while he's making this transition to wide receiver. And you saw him out in the spring. You're like, yeah, it's probably going to take him a year or so to get it down. And then, man, just comes into fall camp and absolutely blows it up. So for him to be right there as a co-starter entering the season, gonna see a lot of big plays out of Spann in 2022. And going back to what you said about the offensive line, even behind that, let's talk about Julian Armella, listed as the true freshman. Julian Armella got here in June, listed as the backup left tackle. That's insane. And he's a guy that we've talked about a ton as well. And look over on defense at cornerback, back up to Amarion Cooper, Azari Thomas, and Sam McCall, both listed as co-backups there. So, and overall, 6 true freshmen on the depth chart. Not a ton of true freshmen, but you are going to have some guys who have really stood out in the spring and some in the fall who are going to play a role.
Julian Armella is someone that has impressed me early on. He was the guy that I was wanting. He was on my top 3 guys to watch going into fall camp. And I just liked how he's been there to listen, also take on wise words from Coach Atkins, obviously, but some of the veterans there too. And he's really learning. And he's going to get playing time this upcoming season. And I hope that we get to see him this upcoming Saturday quite a bit in that second half. But I just think Florida State, it's hard to keep him off the field when he comes up and comes to camp showing up like that, and he's got that mentality to want to learn and get better. And then you're competing with Jared versus McLennan, Dennis Briggs, Pat Payton going at it daily like that. This was a very competitive camp, man. A lot of guys a little chippy here and there, but they kept it cool, and there's high respect for every competitive battle that we've seen. But Julian Armella alone going against those 4 guys that I mentioned there off the end has been great for him to learn and get better and get better at building his craft, because he's still raw. There's a lot of things still to work on. Coach Atkins still very hard on him, but that's a good sign. It's the same thing with Odell Higgins on the other side. If you look at Joshua Farmer, I mean, this is no shocker to us, but he's a guy that's going to come in and play quite a bit this upcoming season. And Odell Higgins being one of the hardest guys on him continuously. Now it's going to be Bishop Thomas, but Joshua Farmer, he's taken that next step. So, that's kind of how Atkins is doing with Armella right now. And so looking forward to seeing Armella. I think going back to Maurice Smith real quick, Norvell saying once again, another quote, really, really soon. How soon is that? And that's an evaluation that they're going to have to do more off the field than anything. You kind of already know what you're going to do with Maurice. And D'Lo, we talked about it early part of fall camp. He was holding his ground against Fabian and Robert Cooper, and that's not an easy thing to do whatsoever. I mean, I think there's been a significant difference now because watching Robert Cooper the last few days, man, a guy is in a different groove right now. We haven't really talked about Cooper enough, but that center position now is going to rely on Darris Washington, who's getting his first start at center. He's played this before, but he's going to get his first start. I like this, though, because if you don't have Maurice Smith ready for LSU, he can come in and he can start understanding the communication, because the offensive line, there's a lot of communication that's going to have to go around with this front line this upcoming season. It's going to be key for him to get that down, and then understanding how he needs to set his blocks and the run game, obviously in pass block. It's going to be a good thing for week 0. You got to hope that he can go back to his original position in week 1 against LSU. But for right now, you've got him at the center position against Duquesne on Saturday.
Thought Maurice Smith was having a pretty solid fall camp prior to getting banged up. He added that weight over the spring and coming into fall camp, and it was paying off for him. And he was kind of, to me, it looked like he was playing as good as he has at center since he's gotten to Florida State. And, he's had a little bit of snapping issues in the past, wasn't really having much of that throughout fall camp. Thought he was pretty solid overall. So it would be good for Florida State for him to return sooner rather than later. We'll continue to track those developments. But looking over to Darris Washington, this is a guy, he's still transitioning to the position, but you've definitely started to see some more positive signs, I would say, over the last week or so. Not really a ton of issues with snapping. There's some every now and then, but you are seeing him work with Jordan Travis and the other quarterbacks constantly, whether it's before practice. Even I've seen it during water breaks. They're walking over there and snapping the ball with each other after practice. So these guys are putting in a lot of work to get on the same page. And, it's going to be good for Darris Washington to get this game against Duquesne before going into LSU. And we'll continue to track and see where Maurice is at when he's able to return.
Anything else really stand outish? And I want to mention, too, just from 3 years now into covering Mike Norvell, I don't take a whole ton away from depth charts, I'll be honest with you guys, because sometimes we look on Saturdays and things are quite a bit different. I don't take a lot away from it. Definitely in week 1, but week 0, I don't take a whole ton away from it. Yes, it's good to maybe analyze and see where some names are at. But I think, too, Cam McDonald also being available there, and it's been limited throughout fall camp. We've seen him be able to participate a little bit more now, but to see him also listed as a starter there on Saturday is huge for Florida State.
And how about Biscuit? We forgot to talk about that. Marqueston Douglas is listed as a starter at, I guess, tight end too. I don't know. They've got 2 tight ends on the depth chart. Cameron McDonald's the starter at one. Marqueston is the starter at the other one. I would assume McDonald's part of the depth charts, the receiving tight ends, whereas Marqueston's more of the blocking tight ends and the guys who will be down in there in the goal line and short yardage situations. But man, very impressive to see that development from Douglas, trimming up that weight over the offseason. Still a little bit big, but he did just fine during fall camp, a lot better when it came to holding on to the football. And today, I remember Norvell was very pleased with something he did during a run block, went over there and jumped on top of him and was giving him a lot of love. So Marqueston Douglas, man, what a turnaround from a guy who hasn't really done much his first couple years at Florida State, and now he's listed as a starter on the depth chart. But like you said, Logan, getting Cameron McDonald back, Norvell mentioned he returned today, and he looks good out there. Particularly, we've been to, I guess today for you, Logan, it was your 19th practice that you've gotten to go to this fall. So we've seen a lot of these tight ends. You saw Cameron McDonald return today, And the athleticism that he brings to the unit is just evident out of the gate. I mean, he's very fluid out of his breaks and routes and just looks a lot more natural compared to some of those other guys out there.
Yeah, he looks good, and we'll see how much PT he'll get on Saturday, if any, but I do think he will get some PT on Saturday inside Doak Campbell Stadium. He does, if anybody's wondering, he does look good, so we'll see how that looks on Saturday. What else really stands out?
We didn't talk about the biggest battle. James Rosenberry won the lawn snapping battle.
Y'all better spend 30 seconds on that.
That's all I got.
I'm
already out of content.
I saw some talk. I don't know. It's just a Discord. Everybody's trolling me about Jared Verse since I've been probably one of the highest person on him since the spring. But it says between Derek McLendon or Jared Verse. I mean, to me, if I were to make a prediction on Saturday, I think you're going to see a duo of McLendon and Verse, just from what I've seen throughout fall camp and just the performance that they put on. I'm excited for Jared Verse, and I'll save that maybe for the game preview as such, but just from hearing him talk to us, he says he does hit just a different kind of feeling on the field whenever he's inside Doak Campbell Stadium or on a playing football field under the lights, which I've already seen enough during practices. Very highly anticipating a fun game from number 5, just the way that he's came and performed this well. That's a guy that's come in first year. He's going to be just like how Keir Thomas and Jermaine Johnson were come in first year start. And this is a guy that you're going to keep around for a little bit longer, though. That's the difference.
Like the running backs, the defensive in-depth chart is not something I'm taking a whole lot of stock in. It doesn't really matter who they trot out there as the starter. Jared Verse, Darren McClendon, Dennis Briggs, those guys are all going to play a ton for Florida State at defensive end. And then Patrick Payton, Leonard Warner seem to be the guys after that who are going to be involved as well. So, yeah, I don't think it matters which 2 guys come out there for the first play. Regardless, you're going to have all 3 of those guys I just mentioned play a pivotal role on the edge. And then going back to wide receivers, like you said, not to take a ton of stock into the depth chart. Norvell even said after practice today that there's receivers that are not listed in the 2 deep that are going to make it on the field for Florida State on Saturday. So the depth chart, it gives you a nice barometer, but when Florida State goes into their depth behind these guys that aren't listed on the initial 2 deep, you're going to see some more guys play.
I don't think, and I completely exited out of the depth chart there, but you saw Jamie Robinson, you had Akeem Dent there at safety too, but I'm really excited for Shyheim Brown this upcoming season overall, and that's a guy that I want to see more out of. He looks the part, dude, and a few things that that play today that he had with that one-handed grab, and for what it's worth, Mike Norvell is very, very, very strict on, number one, holding the ball up tight and securing that, but also using 2 hands to catch the ball, and he'll let you know. But at that point, Shyheim can't do anything about that. The only way that he's going to get that interception is using one arm. But he came down with a phenomenal catch today. That's a player that I'm really excited to see this upcoming season. I don't know, really how much we'll see from the Saturday. I'm expecting quite a bit, but man, and then there's a lot of excitement from that depth chart about Jamie and Akeem Dent. Yes, absolutely. But, Akeem Dent had a lot of high praise for Shyheim Brown, and to think that he's just a redshirt freshman, stop it. The ceiling is very high for him.
There was a lot of talk about him last year, and then just for whatever reason, he didn't end up making it onto the field and making a big impact for Florida State as a true freshman. But, like you said, he's come into this fall. He's had another really good camp, probably even better than last year. Just seems to know the system more and knows where to be in that back end. And he's been really solid for FSU behind Jamie and Akeem Dent and in that rotation with McClellion. So there's some solid options for Florida State at safety. And I think just working with those guys has really paid off for him developmentally. So, yeah, excited to see how Shyheim transitions now that he's going to be getting some legitimate playing time.
And can we really talk about the depth chart without talking about the quarterbacks too? With
what's to talk about?
Tate Rodemaker getting second. There were some fans or some people commenting about it, saying they're kind of surprised Rodemaker got over Duffy. I feel like it's worth mentioning, at least, even though I don't think any of us were surprised by it.
Yeah, if you listen to this podcast, it wouldn't be too much of a shocker there. But it's good to kind of set the tone and eliminate those conversations.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big surprise. I would say Rodemaker and Duffy have been pretty neck and neck throughout fall camp as a whole. Maybe Rodemaker is slightly ahead, but in my opinion, the whole reason you put Tate Rodemaker as your backup is you're trying to redshirt AJ Duffy this year. Maybe if Jordan Travis was to miss time, maybe Duffy leaps Rodemaker. We'll see how things kind of progress throughout the fall. But I would say the goal is probably to redshirt Duffy. And you can play him in those 4 games prior to burning his redshirt. So I think Florida State, they'll try and do that if they can.
What about just a note in here too? Azrae Thomas jumping in here along with Sam McCall. They're going to get.
Yeah, I said that.
They're jumped into that rotation. I just think it's impressive just to see Azrae at practices going against Johnny Wilson. That's been a really competitive battle this week in game week prep. And going into, let's transition now into Tuesdays and Wednesdays practices before we go into some of the recruiting stuff that's happening this weekend. I was really interested to see just the kind of demeanor these guys were going to come in after a really, really beat down kind of camp. I want to see how focused they were going to be for a smaller opponent before going to a Labor Day weekend primetime matchup with a big-time SEC school with LSU. I wanted to see how they were going to come in and attack practices. And what I saw Tuesday and Wednesday, that is exactly, in my opinion, what you wanted to see. Very, very competitive. Nothing really fell off. I thought these 2 practices were better than last week's, and that's understandable. Last week's guys were worn out. You had the Jacksonville trip. You had that whole long stretch there. And then before that, or after Jacksonville, you had the scrimmage. So a lot of guys worn out, beat up. This was a very competitive last Tuesday and Wednesday filled with practices. Coach Atkins said in the Monday presser that, the depth chart's out, but competitive battles are still going to go on this week. And there's some guys still vying for some spots. I thought Tuesdays and Wednesdays practices were really competitive. D-Lou, I know you were here for today's, but what were some of your takeaways from what you saw? I've got a few players that I would like to mention too after you're done. Oh, you're muted.
Like you said, I thought it was a very physical practice for Florida State, considering they're just 3 days away from the season opener. And especially at this point, it's kind of just human nature to look ahead when you're not even 100 hours away from officially kicking off your season. And you've been through, 20 plus fall practices at this point, just toiling away to finally get to Saturday night. So, Florida State, they could have came out flat today. It could have been sloppy, but I thought they executed well for the most part. Malik McClain had a really good day out there. Azrae Thomas had an acrobatic interception down the sideline. All in all, I thought it was exactly the kind of day that Florida State wanted to have when you're getting this close to kickoff.
Tuesday's practice was filled with Johnny Wilson doing Johnny Wilson things. And I wanted to see how he was going to do during game plans and installs and everything. And that's where you really get to see how they're going to utilize him this upcoming season. We got a little glance of that this week. I know it's just Duquesne prep, but still a really nice day, coming away with the incredible throw from Jordan Travis there in the red zone over to him with a nice catch with really good coverage from the DB, comes away and grabs 6 there, made some other big time catches throughout practice. He's been one of the most, consistent through camp along with Pokey. You've also had McLean doing his thing, who I think has looked sharp in some of his route runnings and has been open. That guy's been practicing this week really hard. I thought those players, at least on the offensive side, along with Lawrence Toafili, and I don't think we're talking enough. I don't think we're going to be able to talk enough about him until we see it on the field on Saturday, because like Mike Norvell said, he's been the most improved player of fall camp. And I think it's time to really zone in and buy into what Coach Norvell is saying. I think he knows what he's talking about. Lawrence Toafili has always looked impressive in pass catching, but the way that he's running the ball right now and hitting the holes, it's pretty damn good. And I know it's only practices, but when we got to see them go through team drills, I mean, he looks smooth, man. And I don't know what to expect out of him this upcoming season. The staff thinks very, very, very highly of him, but the way that he performed in front of us in Jacksonville, that's when he really started breaking loose, man. And you're starting to find a three-headed monster. You could throw in 4 with Rodney, still a youngin', but you've got a three-headed monster there, and that rotation is going to be filled with a lot of guys moving in and out on that field this upcoming season. But I've really liked what I saw from Lawrence Toafili this week. Just looks good, man. Looks good.
Entering his third year at Florida State, his third year with Coach Norvell in this offense, I think it's finally starting to click for him. He's got the playbook down to a T, and then on the field, it's just finally started to slow down. And Lawrence Toafili, his vision, I mean, has just been tremendous. He's hitting these holes, and some are wide open holes, but he's also hitting some very tight ones to squeeze out and get some really big runs. And he's just been fantastic alongside Trey Benson. I mean, and Treshaun Ward has had his moments as well. So that running back room, it's very much by committee. And then bouncing back over to the wide receivers, one guy that really stood out on Wednesday that Norvell mentioned after practice, Darren Williamson, coming back from a little bit of an injury, and then made some fantastic plays throughout the course of the day. And the play of the day over there on the goal line goes up over a scholarship defensive back and twist in the air, somehow comes down with a touchdown right on the sideline. So impressive for him, and we'll see if he's one of the guys that's able to get involved in that rotation on Saturday.
On the defensive side, I mentioned him earlier, but Robert Cooper has looked really nice too. I don't know if it's because he's got the do-rag on. I don't know if you know this at D-Lou, but he hasn't had that on all spring nor fall camp, but the do-rag's on, and I don't know, something hit a different gear with him, but he has been almost unstoppable there in the middle today, making a really nice stop on the running back in the red zone. I mean, he had 2 blockers on him, got off of them, and was able to wrap up. I don't remember which running back it was, but it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, he took care of that and held his own going against 2 blockers there. I thought Robert Cooper has had a really nice week, a guy that we haven't talked about a whole ton throughout this offseason, but the staff and Mike Norvell told us in that opening fall camp presser, Robert Cooper is someone that has worked their ass off this offseason, and I'm really excited to see him. He looks in shape. He looks faster than ever for a big guy his size. He's quick for what he needs to do on game days, but I really like what I've seen from Cooper. A nice week from him. One of your veterans on defense that can do a lot of things and cause a lot of havoc there in the middle on that defensive line.
Well, not only has he been at Florida State for what feels like forever at this point, it's his 4th or 5th year in the program, but Cooper really committed to the offseason program this spring and this summer, and I feel like he's in the best shape of his college career to this point. Those races with Norvell are really paying off. I think he won today by a pretty sizable margin. And just sticking with that, it's been funny to kind of watch that transition throughout fall camp, because it was just Cooper and Norvell for a while, and now you've got 4 or 5 defensive linemen making that sprint every day. I think Iobami joined the pack on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think of anybody that I'm missing. I know you mentioned Darren Williamson, but whenever he's fully healthy, he makes plays like that, and what he did in that end zone was pretty damn special. I got a shout out from Coach Norvell after practice, but trying to think of anything else. I mean, 2 guys that have stood out to me on that line that have just stayed healthy throughout it all, going through it, standing on their own. Really, Bless Harris and Dimitri Emmanuel. I've been really pleased with Emmanuel watching him, but Bless Harris, I think having that iron sharpen iron mindset with Verse there on the side, along with McGlendon, Pat Payton, Dennis Briggs, has really helped Bless Harris a lot, along with Robert Scott Jr., but really Bless Harris coming into a new team, new program, has made him perform very well. And Dimitri Emmanuel, I thought, man, last week he put on a show for me. I mean, the most consistent I saw on the offensive line. It's hard to get crazy and get all bricked up over here over an offensive lineman, but damn, Dimitri Emmanuel. Hold up now. I don't think anybody was really talking. Nobody was really talking about Dimitri Emmanuel a whole ton. Yes, he was going to come in and provide depth and, could fight for a starting job, but I didn't expect him to be blocking Fabian Lovett like that. I was not expecting that, but at least on Saturday, at least giving some offensive linemen some love that have really stood out to me throughout this offseason. Bless Harris and Dimitri Emmanuel, two guys that really held their own.
They've been really solid and, making this transition to Florida State. Both of them transferred into FSU over the offseason, and you had Emmanuel kind of going from the group of 5 level now to a Power 5 program at Florida State. You have Bless Harris going from the FCS to the FBS. They both successfully handled that transition, I would say, and it was huge for not only their chemistry with the rest of the unit, but just getting acclimated to Florida State's offense and Alex Atkins in general, that they were able to pretty much be available throughout the entirety of fall camp. So they've taken a lot of reps on that offensive line, and I think they're ready to go for Saturday. I feel pretty confident about both of those guys up front on the offensive line.
Getting away from practice talk here, let's talk about this upcoming Saturday, like you just mentioned, D-Lou, and recruiting is about to kick back open here. Got some visitor list stuff to talk about. Really, maybe name a few names. I don't know kind of anything about what's going on recruiting-wise because it's kind of been dry for a little bit now. Things are going to start kicking back up. But what have you heard on some potential visitors this upcoming weekend? Seems like there's some decent amount of numbers for Duquesne on week 0.
Yeah, it's pretty much been in a dead period since July or so. It did open up for about a week, and Florida State, they were able to have some guys visit practice, and they held the Seminole Showcase at the end of July during that time whenever things were back open. And it's still technically closed right now, but since Florida State is one of the few teams playing a home game in week 0, they are allowed to host recruits for the game. And yeah, I mean, it seems like 40 plus guys or so are going to be making it in on Saturday for this home opener against Duquesne. And there's definitely some talent. A couple FSU commits. You've got 4-star running back Samuel Singleton, 3-star wide receiver Vondravius Jacobs, 3-star defensive back Jabril Rawls, a recent FSU commit, and long snapper commit Peyton Naylor. So 4 guys in that 2023 class going to be making it in. And then there's some other ones. Michael Mitchell, 4-star running back committed to Utah, potential offer. We'll see what happens there. And there's some real talent coming in that 2024 class. Running back Makai Danzy, 3-star wide receiver BJ Gibson, offensive lineman Kamarian Bush, 3-star defensive end LJ McRae. He was actually one of the guys that was at the Seminole Showcase. You've got defensive tackle Xavier Porter, defensive back Ashton Hampson, defensive back Jalewis Solomon. All those guys are 2024 prospects that hold offers from Florida State. So there's certainly going to be some talent in attendance, but I think these visitor lists will just continue to get more stacked as the season goes on because, this is just the home opener. This is just Duquesne. A lot of guys are also starting to begin their high school seasons around this point in time. So the numbers will grow throughout the fall, but a good start for Florida State for sure.
Sweet deal. We'll have full coverage on a lot of the recruits being in attendance this upcoming weekend for Florida State, facing off against Duquesne. Speaking of Duquesne, let's start jumping into the game preview. This game is going to be at 5 p.m. on Saturday. It will be on the ACC network. We will be in attendance, giving you guys full coverage all around with articles, socials. If you're in the Discord, I highly suggest jumping in there too. But if you're not following us on Twitter, I highly suggest doing that also. They're right down below here inside the names on the stream. Florida State's going to kick off the season, guys, and it feels good. I think there's a lot of excitement. What are y'all's original, just true thoughts going into this? Because I think, first off, people are things are still in their heads from last year from Jacksonville State. And I hope we can clear the air here on this, at least from our side on this show right here, that I don't think there's too much to be worried about. This Duquesne team isn't so great, but can we go and kill off that whole storyline there, even though Dustin scared everybody last week was saying they're bringing in the next best quarterback since Joe Montana.
Did not say that.
And I think people are also a little bit nervous because they beat Ohio last year, which, while not a world beater, it is a Division I team. I think that's got everyone thinking, oh, could it really happen again? But I'm not really expecting much. And to you, Nick, you asshole in the comment, no, I will not be at the game. So you know which way to bet.
What'd they say? Oh, they said, is Austin going to this week's game? Need to know which way to bet.
Can you even bet on this game? Because I've been looking
No,
around for days and
not.
I have not been able to find a single spread.
Yeah, no spreads, no money lines. No
Trying to find a
over-unders.
spread to base my score prediction on, but now I've just got
Nothing.
to shoot in the dark.
I've seen one projected score of 37-3. That is the only thing I've seen.
I saw that too. That was some website. I
It
don't
was
know.
Outshark, I think.
That was a computer simulation score. I don't even know, dude.
Mm-mm.
But at least we have an idea.
Do we know? Do we have the forecast yet? We always got to make sure here in Tallahassee before. And also, I'm hearing buzzing.
It's
Someone
my
is getting
phone.
hit up.
I'm sorry.
Well, Austin's
Someone's
the one
getting
that
hit
knows the
up.
weather boys, so.
Oh yeah, you are our weather. You are our weather boy from last year. You are our weather boy. So if you can give us, even though both me and Dustin live here, we should probably know it right off
Give me
the
2
top of our
seconds.
heads. But yeah, I'll say, this game to me, I think FSU fans are looking for number one, Jordan Travis and his passing abilities. Is that getting better? Is this lies that we're telling? Is the media telling lies here at practices where, he's connecting nonstop with McLean, Johnny Wilson, Duquesne is having these spurts here and there with the deep ball. Micah Pittman, Pokey Wilson's looking great. I think the team, or at least the fan base coming into Doak on Saturday, want to see that improvement there made from Jordan Travis. Not saying that it was got off. If you look past that last quarter of the season for Jordan Travis, there was a lot of improvements there, but we keep hearing things from the staff. It's been continuous since that opening press conference in early August. We know that Jordan Travis from the staff, they feel very comfortable in him running the entire offense and doing his thing. Let's see how that looks against a smaller opponent, yes, on Saturday, but that passing attack needs to be shown. I think not only for the fans, but some of these recruits later on down the road this season, they need to see, if you talk about some guys like Hakeem Williams, Jalen Brown, who is, of course, still committed to LSU, but I don't think that recruitment's over. There's still some guys out there that can be weapons for Florida State in the future that are looking at FSU's passing game and saying, okay, we've heard great things about it. Let's see it perform on a game type situation. So that's one thing that I think fans, and to be honest, me too, I want to see it. I've seen it in practices. I want to see it on the game field.
Yeah, and just to keep going into that, I would say something I want to see in general from these players is just go out there and prove it. Not just Jordan Travis, but we've seen what Johnny Wilson has done. We've seen what Duquesne has done. We've seen what Jared Verse has done. All these newcomers, and then the guys that have stepped up throughout the fall. We talked about Brendan Gant earlier, Azari Thomas, Sam McCall. We've seen what these guys have done throughout fall camp, and it looks like guys like that, I only mentioned 6, but I could have mentioned 20, they're primed to play a pretty pivotal role on Florida State's success throughout 2022. So now you've proved it in practice. It's time to go out there and prove it on the field against an actual opponent. So that's what I want to see. Transition it from practice to the game field.
By the way, for your weather update, anywhere between a 75 and 85% chance of rain with a 50% chance of thunderstorms.
Nice.
It looks like it's mostly in the morning.
It's a Tallahassee day. You're going to always have that quick shower come through, lasts about 20, 30 minutes. You got to hope that's maybe earlier in the day. Let's just do early in the day. I don't want to get rained on leaving the stadium. So let's just get that done. Let's get that over with at 11 a.m. Let's call it then. Cool down the heat, too. That would be very nice. Let the field dry a little bit. So let's get that out of the way early, Tallahassee. It's been a little iffy this week, off and on with some rain, but hopefully Saturday will be fine. But thank you for that weather update there, VZ from Charlotte, live from Charlotte, from the two guys down here.
Giving you weather updates on Tallahassee, live from Charlotte.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to bring up a thing here. We put out a piece today. Our guy Charleston, always killing it. Also going to be doing our game previews again this year. Does a great job. But he added in a new segment this year where he's going to go in and grab quotes from the opposing head coaches, some of the players, and here we go once again. This is probably where nightmares come back from some of these FSU fans watching this right now. I'm going to bring up a quote here from one of their players here. This is from Noah Palmer. He transferred from Pittsburgh, and he's played for the Panthers when they beat the Seminoles in Tallahassee 41-17 in 2020. So let's just add on
backup defensive end.
Yep.
By the way.
He said, you want to go out there, have a good game, and upset them. If you don't go out there with that mindset, what are you doing? The crowd and tomahawk thing. It's fun to see how people react to it. I've seen it before. It's pretty cool, but we definitely want to shut that down early. Then junior defensive back Jeremiah Josephs, a Miami, Ohio transfer, had a few things to say, too. He said, it's exciting. Everybody is ready. Florida State is a bigger school, and people might think that we're coming in scared. But I feel like our team is bought in. We know we can shock the world. We look at it like an experience and an opportunity. So another team that wants to shock the world.
I mean, but really, what else are they supposed to say? You want them to go, yeah, we expect to go down there and get killed. Like, you don't want them saying that. Like, they're supposed to talk it up a little bit.
You got a point.
I don't think you're wrong.
Like, everyone was making a fuss about it on Twitter, especially after we tweeted the article. People like, man, what are they talking about? Like, it's football. That's what they're supposed to say. You want them to be competitive, even if they do get smacked by 30.
Is that your prediction? Is that what you're?
No. I'm just saying, even if that happens, you want them to at least think they're going to be competitive.
Absolutely. I think it's a great quote to say as the underdog, the big time underdog going into this game. But I think it's more of just FSU fans last year of Jacksonville State. And that's 100% understandable. Yes, that should have never, ever, 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 ever happened. Like, that's something that probably won't ever happen again in our lifetime. And that happened right in front of our eyes.
God, knock on wood, bro. Don't start saying that. They play an FCS team in 3 days, buddy. That'll never happen again in our lifetime.
Well, maybe this.
You're trying to jinx it?
The internet is forever.
Trying?
Yeah, I was about to say, I'll be clipped and put on friggin' SC.
You want to get TikTok famous? That's a good way to do it.
Hey, if it gets us more views, let me talk about it here for a minute. More subscribers, I'll do a lot of things. No, but I don't want FSU to lose, obviously, this upcoming. But I thought that was pretty interesting to bring up some of the quotes from the opponents. We're going to continue to do that throughout the offseason. Their head coach, excited too about this matchup on Saturday too. Coming from a guy that is going to have to make a big time travel from Pittsburgh too. Something I just noticed just a few days ago didn't pop into my mind, and that's from Pittsburgh. A lot of good football players up there in Pittsburgh right now. Go Steelers.
Not quarterback play.
We have 3 capable starting quarterbacks.
Does Duquesne have the best quarterback in that region right now?
Stop it. Yeah, I'm gonna come up there to Charlotte and attack you. Jason Mackey is the head coach. Never mind. No, he's not. Jerry Schmidt is the head coach there with Duquesne. He's saying it's a great opportunity for our young men to go into that kind of environment and play against a team like that. We want to go play well and get better. We hope it helps us as we move through the season. That seems like a pretty smart quote there, though. A little bit different from maybe the player's point of view. You would expect that from a coach to say that, but they're coming in here to learn, get better, and hopefully that will help provide some better understanding of what kind of football team they have this upcoming season.
Well, you've got it. Yeah, it's coach speak. You've got a guy, I believe he's been at Duquesne for 19 years or so. So this is a guy that's coached a lot of football, and he knows what to say when you're going into a game like this. I'm sure he's played a couple before. We talked about they played 2 FBS teams last year and beat 1. So it's probably a little bit better to have that under the radar mentality.
We should also talk about that other FBS game though, where they got absolutely railroaded by TCU.
Yeah, what was that score? 40-3 or something like that?
45-3. Yeah.
Yikesies. Oopsies.
Yeah, it didn't help. They had so you look at Duquesne's depth chart, the quarterback position currently in OR between Joe Mishler and Darius Parantes. And Mishler actually opened the season as the starter for Duquesne last year in that TCU game, and then suffered a season-ending injury during the contest that forced Parantes to be thrown in there. So tough pill to swallow in your season opener.
That is tough. I'm interested to see too what they're going to do in that quarterback room on Saturday, and I don't know if they're going to go with the guy that is getting them down the field, if any, but it's not going to be a fun matchup there with Florida State's defensive line, which I think is going to cause problems very, very, very early. I think outsized is maybe the wrong thing to say here, but it doesn't think it will last much long there in the trenches. Who do you guys want to see playing after halftime? Let's just say Florida State. This is how it should be. It sucks now that in 2022 we can't go in and say who would we like to see at halftime. Some of the newcomers you would love to see a walk-on get in that fourth quarter. Wouldn't that be awesome? But we can't say that anymore. We can't. This is Florida State. This is how it should be. Just how it should be.
I don't know if you can say it yet. Maybe let's wait one more year. See what happens this year first.
Who would y'all like to see on Saturday get in there, get into the rotation after halftime? Let's say Florida State's up 30 to friggin' 3 at halftime. Who would y'all like to see?
I don't think they're taking the starters out up 30-3.
Yeah, I don't think so either. You got to be up 40 to take the starters out.
It's got to be like 45-3. Like we saw the Massachusetts game last year. Florida State didn't take their starters out till probably midway third quarter when it was 45-0 or something. You gotta hold on for a while just to make sure. Plus, get these guys a little bit of game reps ahead of that LSU.
That's why
game.
I said after halftime. That's why I said it could be third or fourth quarter.
For me, as far as guys that get in, it's the true freshmen: Sam McCall, Zuri Thomas, Julian Armella. Heck, give me some Kanaya Charlton on the offensive line. Omar Graham. Get some of those true freshmen that have stood out throughout fall camp involved, and start getting them a little bit of a look early to see if they're going to be able to help you next week against the Tigers in New Orleans.
The comment of Dustin Hill is a fantastic answer, by the way. Would love to see him on the field in the second half. Hopefully the starters are just – it's like the UMass game. The starters are out midway through the third quarter. You start seeing what you have in some of the young guys. I'd like to see how the receiver room shakes out a little bit down the board. And, maybe they can get Toafili some more regular running back reps, and he's not being used as a gadget player.
Players that I want to see on Saturday, probably Julian Armella would be number one in that group. Now that Steven Diggs Jr. is out, I want to see a bit more of Omar Graham, and that's a guy that I wasn't really want. Of course, I want to see Omar play, but the guy that I now really, really want to see play because he's got to get in there. Sorry, Omar, I love you, man, but now I really want to see you get out there and get some reps because if you think about it, that linebacker room, that's great right there it's good. It's good right now, and the rotation that you have. But if God forbid anything happens, and it's happened before, he's going to have to be pushed into a rotation aspect. So I'd like to see Omar Graham get in there. I'm missing somebody, and I had it on I'd like to see Bishop Thomas. There he is. I am very high. Not as high as Shaheem Brown, which I know I'm already going to see him a lot on Saturday. But I'd like to see some Bishop Thomas. I thought he's had an impressive spring and fall camp. That's a guy that's, for some reason, not the biggest guy in the room at all in that defensive line room, but he just finds a way to get back there to the running back and the backfield to the quarterback and causes problems, man. And I think Odell Hagan sees it too. He's coaching him pretty hard, just like he did Joshua Farmer last year. I'd like to see Bishop Thomas get in there on Saturday wearing number 90. If you guys are watching out there in Doak on Saturday, watch out for him. He's been a really impressive true freshman coming in, a guy that isn't talked a lot on this same ways of Sam McCall and Azrae Thomas, but I'm going to put Bishop Thomas's name in that hat.
Another guy, and I expect Jordan Travis to get the majority of work on Saturday against Duquesne, depending on the score and the situation. But I would really love to see AJ Duffy get involved at some point in the offense in that second half, maybe in the fourth quarter. Give Tate Rodemaker some drives, but then allow Duffy to finish it off with, maybe 2 drives or so to end the game against Duquesne, just to get him a little bit of a look, because he is raw, and has had some up and down performances throughout fall camp. But I think that his trajectory, it's been ascending ever since those first couple of fall practices, and he's really started to settle in. And like I said, I don't see a whole lot of a difference between Duffy and Rodemaker at this stage of fall camp, making a face over there. I think they're pretty
got a
much
nice stride on him. I think he's got a nice. I don't think it's. I'm seeing too many passes not going down the field and just tucking it and running out of AJ Duffy. I think the game will be big for him, but I think Rodemaker's got him by a good stride. Let's don't knock on Tate Rodemaker now. He's had some really nice strides. We've heard great things from scrimmages. I don't think it's 50-50 between AJ Duffy and Tate Rodemaker.
I don't think it is either. I think Tate Rodemaker.
But I think Tate's already hit his ceiling. I think Tate's hit his ceiling. AJ Duffy, you don't know how far that ceiling. I think it's higher, but I don't think it's where it's neck and neck right now, where they're vying for you're throwing in AJ Duffy as their backup against LSU.
I've already said earlier in this podcast that I don't want that to happen. I expect Duffy to redshirt this season, but I don't think that there's a huge gap between those two, and it wouldn't surprise me if Duffy overtakes Rodemaker by the conclusion of the season.
I think I'd be surprised to see Duffy in this game, because if they are planning to redshirt him, God forbid something happened to Travis, you want to maybe use those 4 games later down in the season. That's all I'm saying.
You got a point.
It's already a thin quarterback room, and I don't think they'd want to waste a game, first game of the season. That's just my thinking, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think it'd be huge, though, for AJ Duffy to get in there on Saturday. That's hopefully FSU's game plan. If they're up by enough and get some of those guys in there into that rotation, you would love to see Duffy get some actual game time reps on Saturday, late afternoon into the evening. There's a comment on here earlier. Who scores the first touchdown of the season? Who's going to do that on Saturday? I think you answered this, Dustin, in your mailbag, and you went with the easy answer. I don't like going for easy answers. You went with Jordan Travis. I'm going to go with something different here. It's going to be Deuce Span on a kickoff return on Saturday. Whoa. Whoa.
I'm going to be
better hope FSU receives.
Yeah. If that happens, clip it. I'm leaving the press box. I'm going to get a drink. We've done what we needed to do. I'm going to clip it.
Well, if FSU doesn't receive, that means Duquesne scored.
What happened?
You said he's going to score on a kickoff return. If it's not the first play of the game, then that means Duquesne scored.
I'm relying off of one good kickoff return right now.
But when's it going to be?
I'm going to be born and take Trishawn Ward, by the way.
Okay, that's fine. No, I think that's not bad. I don't think that's too boring. We got it in the chat. Everybody put in the chat. We need everybody's opinions on this. What about if it is the first play of the game? Duquesne's kicking off and Deuce Span takes it to the house.
I would be shocked, considering what we saw with special teams last season. Special teams was so pitiful last year.
I would be looking up when's the last time FSU returned a kickoff for a touchdown, and it was in the national championship game.
Yeah, I said that a few weeks ago.
And that's just scary and also awful to hear at the same, just astounding. Andre Moore's got Trey Benson 60-yard to the crib.
I could see
60 yards to the crib.
Toafili or Ward. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Even Travis getting an option.
Yeah, thick enough.
Nick's got Johnny Wilson. That's a guy that's been scoring touchdowns left and right throughout this offseason. Malik McLean, I think that's a great pick too. Well, Carl, what? Go ahead.
I think I'd be surprised to see it be a passing touchdown to start. Because I think Florida State wants to be a running team. Yeah, they want to show the improved passing offense.
Whoa, voice crack much?
It's been a long day.
Man,
It's been a long day. Stop
you're
it.
still maturing, VZ. You're still maturing.
Shut up. Shut up. Shut up.
Dustin's the one laughing, but he's muting his mic. Yeah, you
Never
are.
mind. Never mind. I'll just end my conversation. It's fine.
No, I think no. Go ahead. There you go. There's a toe affiliate.
I think I'd be surprised to see it be passing touchdown. I think Florida State's gonna be so dominant as a run team this year. Yeah, yes, you want to show your improved passing offense. I think we're going to see some deep shots early to try and show that. But I think what Florida State is a dominant run team this year.
Mm-hmm. Larry's bringing.
They're back.
Oh God, we got the bots. We got the bots on YouTube. I think it's like after 9 they come in here and. How do I get them out of here? There we go. This is a good question here from Larry on Facebook asking, how many touchdowns do you think kickoff return and punt return will get this year?
0. Continue the trend.
Oh.
You don't really see.
I'm going with 1, my Deuce Span.
I would say one combined.
Now, if Deuce Span brings
All
this back
season.
on.
The odds are not in your favor if we look at the last 5 seasons. Like, yes, at some point they're due. Like, it's been 5 seasons since I think punt return it was 4 seasons for DJ Matthews punt return.
God, that feels like years ago. Hey, shout out to him. Is he fully healthy at Indiana this year?
I think he is.
Don't care.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm okay.
Whoa.
That came out a little.
Dang.
I hope he's healthy,
DJ
but I don't care about Indiana. That's what I meant to say.
DJ was a big Noel game day guy, man. We just had to.
That's
I mean,
fine.
would you not want to transfer away from Willie Taggart? I mean, let's be honest here.
Listen. Hopefully, he's a fan of the next Hoosier game day website we make.
Oh God, I hope we don't. Yep, we've got the whole lineup here. Trey Lukens from Facebook's got the whole scoring plan set up here. Micah Pittman punt return. We'll defer for defense first. 3 and out for Duquesne. They punt in and Pittman scores. Okay, so Pittman's gonna have a punt return. Something's gonna happen.
I do think the return game is going to be a lot better, but I don't think it's going to just start leading to a ton of touchdowns. If anything, you're going to look at the benefit of the added field position, because Florida State, you can think about the punt returns a year ago where guys didn't want to fair catch the ball and they let it bounce and you lose 20 yards, or you finally do come up to field a punt and you muff it. It was straight up ugly. And that was something that the coaching staff, it was a big emphasis this fall to do some live special teams work, something that Florida State hasn't done the first couple of years that Mike Norvell has been in Tallahassee. So now they've been going through everything, live contact at certain points of fall camp, and that should benefit not only the return units, but the special teams as a whole. But it has really helped with those return units as far as building chemistry, and they've got some explosive playmakers back there that are going to be bringing the ball back as well.
Now, I think it is worth mentioning. We haven't talked about it the whole time, but the special teams, it should be revamped here. I mean, I liked what I've seen from Sam McCall, Deuce Span, and then you've got Micah Pittman, who's really, really good guy with his vision, man, and he runs kind of like a running back. He just knows how when the blocks are coming his way,
block them.
He blocks, or he doesn't block, but he reads them very well. So I think you got to hope, man. I mean, it was awful last year. It was atrocious, and it put Florida State in a really bad spot. Multiple times. I mean, those mistakes, you're muffing the punt or you're catching it on the 5-yard line. Like, and what are we doing here? It just doesn't make any sense. And Mike Norvell and the Florida State staff doing a heavy job this offseason of trying to fix those mistakes and playing it smart. So we've also seen Trey Benson back there at kick return too, worth mentioning. Yep. So, look for hopefully a revamped room starting on Saturday. C Fry on YouTube's asking, how many passing touchdowns will we see from Jordan Travis on Saturday?
2. I got 2.
2 is a safe bet. I don't think he's going to put the ball in the air more than 15 times. I would be surprised.
No, it'll be more than that. I think he's going to. I think he's going to have 20, 25 passing attempts. I just think you know how Jordan Travis is. He's going to scramble one in, probably. You know, a couple passing touchdowns.
I got 3 TDs. I got three passing TDs. I'd go with that. It might be more than that, but I got 3. That running back room, though, is just going to be hard to stop. What are you laughing at, D-Lou? I've already got my deuce.
It might be more than that. I got 3. It might be more than that.
I've got my deuce. I mean, it's freaking Duquesne. I want to say the F word, but I can't. But it's goddamn Duquesne. I mean, this should be absolute just get the F out of my stadium. It's time to go party in College Town by the third quarter. Just like Los would come on here and say they were already game planning the night out in the second quarter. Obviously, that's a little bit different of a team, but still, this is Duquesne, man. This is friggin' Duquesne. This should be over. We should be already planning recess
You're saying all
night.
this stuff about blowing Duquesne out. How's Jordan going to have enough time to throw all these touchdown passes if he's out by halftime?
Well, if you think about it, what are we seeing in practice with Deuce Spann being wide open 50 yards down the field?
Happens every now and then.
What have we seen from Johnny Wilson and really tight coverage coming down with touchdowns? I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, it's a daily occurrence. We see that. So I wouldn't be shocked to see 3 or more. I'll stick with 3 for you, D-Lou.
I'm just interested to kind of see how they balance that offense out. You know, are they going to want to attack the air more often to kind of see if this passing attack is improved, or are they going to go heavy on the run? You know, because it's been more of a run attack the first couple years that Mike Norvell has been in Tallahassee. I think it's going to be similar, but I think it's going to be a bit more balanced than maybe it was a year ago.
I think for this first game, they're going to kind of keep things close to the chest and not want to show too much for the LSU game. Like they're going to they're going to experiment here and there, you know, little tweaks, but they're not going to want to. Obviously, they're not going to want to show up the whole arsenal. They're going to try a couple things just to keep the gears in the brain going for the following week, saying, yeah, we think this can work.
Real quick before we go into the score predictions, what's a win out of Duquesne? You come away with the win. Okay. God dang it. I want to get over the Jacksonville State stuff so badly. I need them to smoke this team so that we can get over previewing. I hope this doesn't happen. What month does whatchamacallit come into town? I hope we're over this and we've gotten over it by the time Louisiana. Well, no, because y'all bring up Billy Napier. Well,
dude, Louisiana went 13-1 last year. I'm more scared about them than Duquesne.
Well, I would kind of hope so, but I'm hoping Florida State does its job over here. But no, what's a win out of this? What's a win? What do you need to see that from what we saw in practice translate over to on game fields? What do we need to see? Obviously, points wise, what's the point starting off with? Points wise, you need to win by
5+ touchdowns, 6 maybe.
I was thinking 5 touchdowns, at least 5 touchdowns.
Put in the chat too. But yeah, 5 touchdowns. You think? I think 5 minimum.
It should be more, but if you win by 5 touchdowns, I'm feeling pretty good on my flight to New Orleans next week.
And really, for me, it's just stay healthy. Come out of this game as healthy as can be before you head to New Orleans. But yeah. I would really just love to see, you know, I don't want to compare it to the Jacksonville State game, but that game was just a perfect storm where FSU came out flat and they didn't hit on some plays early on. They missed that 4th down conversion to Keyshawn Helton that would have been a touchdown if he could have hung on to it. I want to see Florida State come out and execute early and put a foot on Duquesne's throat, because that's one thing they didn't do to Jacksonville State last year. They let them hang around. They let them gain some confidence. And then before you know it, the dumbest play of all time is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you have to come in confident and take care of business early. You know, go to halftime up at least 3 scores, if not 4. You know, get a couple more in the third quarter, get the starters out, get healthy, go to New Orleans.
Yeah. I think, too, going back to your
Facebook
user here, that's a name from the comment on here.
It's very official.
He says, he or her says, stay healthy and don't underestimate your opponent. I think from what you were saying, D-Lou, you go back to last season too, the way that they were taking care of North Carolina early on, I was like, okay, that's nice to see, but they have not found a way to keep that consistently for 2 halves. Let's see that happen. They should be able to do this against a lesser opponent. What happened last year against Jacksonville State was atrocious. That should never be a thing that happens where you're going into a situation where it comes down to a friggin' field goal. It's just no, or down really to where Florida State falls apart, and then you let that touchdown happen in the secondary. We've already gone over that. That was a nightmare scenario. Florida State's got to consistently put the friggin' foot on their necks and kill them, and then kill them even more and put it away. I mean, that's what we've seen Florida State do back in the good old days. They got to bring that back. I don't want Mike Norvell. I don't want the staff to feel lenient. I don't want them to hold back on anything. Go out there and dominate. And I think Florida State has a lot of underclassmen, some guys that are vying for starting jobs, guys that are chomping at the bit to get in there and get some PT, good PT, to go out there whenever their time is called, when Florida State is later in the third quarter, fourth quarter, to continue to push that out there and put points on the board. Florida State has got to absolutely dog stomp these clowns. Sorry, Duquesne.
Jesus.
Hey, it's game week,
Dog
baby. I'm excited.
these clowns.
I'm excited, baby. And you know what? I apologize. That's a fellow Pittsburgh football team up there. Go Steelers. Let's do some score predictions and get out of here. Let's get out of here.
Okay.
What are we thinking? What do we got? It's the first score predictions. All of us, obviously, during the season preview, predicted Florida State to win this game. This is when we start jotting down and seeing who has the best record after the season. All of us last year predicted Florida State to beat Jacksonville State. We all took a loss on that one.
If I remember correctly, we all predicted they would dog walk Jacksonville State.
What was yours, Dustin?
59-0.
So
if you're still watching the show right now, are you sure you want our analysis on these score predictions?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the best time, but Florida State will be facing Duquesne on Saturday inside Doak Campbell Stadium at 5:00. The student section almost completely sold out there. Should be a fun one. Got Florida State, Mike Norvell heading into his third season, big time season kicking off for the Noles. What do we got? How we feeling?
Should I start?
I think you should lead us off in this, because remember, and I want to mention this too, that I did have the best record last year.
Yeah, right.
On game predictions. And don't even frown. Dustin always does that.
We'll have to look.
Dustin always does that. I did. I mean, I did.
Why does it matter this week? We're all
if I didn't have Jacksonville State, I mean, it wouldn't have been close.
We're all picking the same thing.
This is where we're starting from. Just give me my recognition. Give my recognition, then we'll start off 0-0. We're going to compete here. I got 1-0 right now from this podcast. So let's hope that someone can take my crown. Where's my crown at? I need to order a crown.
I might just have to pick Duquesne.
So a fun fact: Florida State is 11-1 all time in the month of August.
Someone read the game notes.
Yeah. Or I saw that somewhere else, and that was on social media somewhere.
Yeah, they stole it from the game notes.
Sorry.
Hey, they're supposed to be utilized for media.
No, they borrowed it. They didn't steal it.
It's an important thing though, because if you think, like, college football teams don't play a lot of games in August, so I think it's important to note, and it should hopefully be 12-1 after this game. If it's not, we got some serious issues. The Florida State should win comfortably, though. I'm afraid to pick too big of a score, though, because I'm waiting to see with this team before I ever get confident. So I'll play it on the safe side and say 38-10. Super safe side. I'd rather be pleasantly surprised next week than majorly disappointed.
That's only 4 touchdowns. You said 5.
I know.
Ooh, so you don't feel like that's a win after Duquesne then? Tom is telling you to stop it in the chat. Tom's telling you to stop it.
That's fine. Tom's been on me for the last month. It's fine.
I thought he's been giving you some love, though. He has been giving you some love, but he is telling you straight up.
Occasionally. He's moved on from calling me bottom guy, so we've moved somewhere.
Because you did move up to the top today. That's why. I feel like D-Lou's he's going to say something slick. But he ain't going back to 59-0 again. He ain't doing that.
I ain't picking. No, I'm not picking 59 to 0 this time. I'll play a little bit safer, but I do think
this is a guy that, let me just mention too, this is a guy that's been at a majority. You've only missed one practice. This is a guy that's been at a majority of these practices. Go ahead.
I do think Florida State is going to win this game. I'm interested to see how comfortable they end up winning it, but really, for me, it's we've talked about how much this team has improved in the trenches, not only on the offensive line, but the defensive line over the offseason. I think that's one area where they should be able to dominate Duquesne, particularly on defense. Duquesne, they're replacing their entire starting left side. They don't have an offensive lineman that's over 300 pounds. The only guy that is over 300 pounds is their left guard. So you've got Robert Cooper and Fabian Lovett both sitting in there about 320 plus. You've got some pretty nice size at defensive end as well. And then, I mean, the guys behind Fabian and Coop are pretty nicely sized as well. So I think Florida State, they should have a pretty good time on defense at the line of scrimmage. And then, you know, for me, it's just, can Florida State's offense execute, avoid penalties, you know, make a couple big plays. I'm going to go Florida State 48, Duquesne 10.
Oh, my goodness. We're close, D-Lou. We are very close. We are close. Practically, I'm going off of, you know, exactly what Dustin just said. I think Florida State's defense is going to dominate. Shouldn't be much. I'm just excited, man, to see Fabian Love and Robert Cooper show, man, and Jared Verse. That defensive line should be one of the most exciting groups, if not the most exciting group, alongside maybe that running back room this upcoming season for Florida State. That should be dominating. That should be very fun to watch, because that group you're bringing back from last year, and you should feel very happy about that. I think Florida State's defense is going to take care of things along. You know, we haven't really talked about Jamie Robinson. I think he's going to have a big season ahead. The biggest factor is coming out of this game healthy, and Jordan Travis staying healthy. That's the biggest one there for Florida State. I got Florida State winning this one 45-13, and I think it's a good, nice start. That's a win for me, as long as everybody's staying healthy, getting ready for LSU weekend and Labor Day when we'll be over there in New Orleans. That is fine with me, but a 45-13 is a nice one there. I need my guy Ryan Fitzgerald to hit a few kicks there too. That would make me feel a little bit better about putting some extra points on the board from the special teams unit. But 45-13 seems like a nice start for Mike Norvell. And also, this would be Florida State's first season opener win since, guys, 2016 against Ole Miss over there in Orlando. So would go ahead and break that streak. Maybe that was the last little bad streak that Florida State needed to break before maybe emerging as a contender in the ACC. We'll see. A long offseason it has been, gentlemen, up and down. We had to go through basketball season and what was really brutal to go through. We went through a nice long spring of some of the newcomers emerging, a lot of early enrollees, and then we jump into fall camp, which has been extremely competitive. We've got still a lot of newcomers I think Florida State fans are going to see on Saturday. They're going to have to get these numbers written down. Make sure you have a roster sheet set with you going into the stadium on Saturday, because there's going to be a lot of newcomers, a lot of transfers, a lot of freshmen getting some burn on Saturday night. So hopefully. I think that wraps up. Any last thoughts before we head into the 2022 season? Last time we'll talk to you guys will be most likely next Wednesday. I doubt we'll be doing instant reaction.
We better do some.
I hope we don't
podcast.
We'll do a.
Jared Verse gets like 5 sacks. You're gonna want to do a podcast.
If he gets 3, I'm there.
Not even 3. If he gets a second and a half, you're going to be on here.
If he gets attacked,
I told y'all that was going to happen.
He's going to get a second half late in the third quarter, and Logan's going to come on here. Losing himself.
No, man. Maybe potentially, but yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on the show. What we'll be doing, though, this will be recorded on Wednesdays. This will also be uploaded on Wednesday nights to whatever podcast platforms y'all listen to us on. So it's a little bit different than last year. We recorded on Thursday nights, and then sometimes it wouldn't be till Thursday night at midnight to go up, and then you have Thursday, Friday. This way you have 2 full days to listen to the podcast, a little bit easier access for you guys. Definitely when it comes down to previewing LSU, UF, Clemson, all those are probably going to be a little bit more longer than this one. So it gives y'all enough time to listen this year. So a little bit of an adjustment there to help out you guys. Other than that, we'll have some instant reactions throughout the season for y'all. We super appreciate all of y'all this offseason supporting us. The numbers have been really crazy in this whole offseason. I was a little shocked of how well we stayed consecutive of a lot of the viewers, a lot of the downloads on iTunes and the podcast platforms, but super appreciative of all of you guys coming in here, coming in the chat. A lot of y'all newcomers that now are veterans, now communicating in chat. Shout out to all y'all on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. But yeah, we've made it, ladies and gentlemen. It is officially game week. The Florida State Seminoles will take on Duquesne on Saturday evening at 5 p.m. at Doak Campbell Stadium. You can watch it on the ACC network. As always, you listen to podcasts on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. If you're on one of those platforms, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you're on YouTube right now, if you're still on there, I know we got over 100 on there still, hit the like button. It will go to more FSU fans so we can come in here and chat with us. So appreciate everybody. As always, Logan Robinson from Here is Spear, presented by NoleGameDay.com. Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer up there. And down below, D. Lou, editor-in-chief at NoleGameDay.com. Football season is here. The Florida State Seminoles kick off in just a few days. See you guys.